So the Trudeau government is going full tilt on trying to take away free speech. This is something we've known for the longest time. I've made several videos about it, but um, like Justin Trudeau mentioned in his infamous Great Reset Global News video, that I think that was in what, October, November, I don't remember exactly, but the pandemic is a opportunity for us to reset things, or whatever he said, right? And that one of those things is taking away free speech, right? And here's the thing when it comes to this, for starters, that again, people, a lot of the average person that really has no idea what they're talking about always brings up is, oh, they're not going to take away free speech. Well, yeah, they're not explicitly going to make a law saying no free speech. What they're going to do is that they're going to say, oh, yeah, you can't say this, you can't say that, right? Which is effectively saying no free speech, right? So it's the same thing with the mandatory vaccines that are probably going to end up happening, unfortunately, in that, again, the government's not going to pass a law and, send cops to your house and arrest you and tie you down and force you to take it. No, they're simply going to be, okay, and can't go to Walmart without a vaccine, can't go to a Oilers game without a vaccine, you can't even go in Rogers Place or places like that without a vaccine. And then once they get away with that, it's going to be, oh, guess what? TD and BMO and Scotiabank. Oh, yeah, it turns out you're going to need a vaccine to have a bank account with us, guys. And then all the big corporations, yeah, it turns out you're going to need a vaccine to work for us, guys. So um, they're basically just going to make life so inconvenient for you that you basically have to take the vaccine. Even though there isn't a law saying you have to take it, they'll just make life so inconvenient for you that you have to take it, basically. And that's kind of how they're going to do it with free speech, is that, not the same, though, it's different in a lot of ways, in that they're not going to make a law saying no free speech, right? They're not going to do that. They're going to make a law saying no hate speech. You're not allowed to offend people, right? But the problem with that is that there's no clear definition of hate speech, right? And obviously, someone being offended is one of the most arbitrary things you can possibly imagine, right? So, anyway, Corey Morgan says, once Trudeau takes away our free speech, it will all be that much easier to take away the rest of our freedoms. The docile nature of Canadians isn't a virtue, it's a fatal cultural flaw. And he's 100% correct about this. Like, absolutely hits the nail on the head perfectly here with this, is that in that. And this is the other thing that the average person is too ignorant to understand, in that you don't. I'm not saying Canada ends up like North Korea, or we probably do end up like China if I had to bet money, but whatever. I'm not saying we end up like any of these places, but what people don't understand is that you don't go, at least you don't almost never go from a perfectly free country to North Korea overnight. That's almost never how it works. Like, you don't go from a perfectly free country to Venezuela overnight. This stuff usually festers for years, more often than not decades, right? Again, like, look at what led up to World War II Germany. There was basically the day after World War One ended, like 20 years of time to fester. Look at the Rwandan genocide. That stuff was festering going back to like the 1920s, 1930s, right? So again, people just don't understand how this stuff works, and that, again, we don't go from a perfectly free country to a totalitarian nightmare overnight, right? Not how it's going to work. The government, it's inch by inch by inch by inch. In fact, it's usually, two steps back, one step forward, right? In that, I mean, the quote unquote pandemic is a perfect example of that, right? In that they take away a bunch of your freedoms, give you a tiny bit of them back, and be like, oh yeah, we're back to normal, guys. Or, oh, you can go back to normal, even though it's not actually normal, right? So that's how they do it, and the average person is dumb enough to believe it, right? So of course, there again, people say, oh, why would they do it? Well, they've gotten away with it at almost every point up to this point. Why would they not continue to not do it, right? And a lot of people would also say, oh, okay, well, what incentive? Well, why do people not want free speech? Well, I mean, for starters, you do realize the majority of the countries in the world do not have free speech. In fact, I don't even know if the majority of first world countries have free. In fact, I don't think it is, right? In that, I mean, if you don't have a First Amendment, right, you don't have free speech, right? Canada has, people say we have the Charter. No, it doesn't mean anything, right? Because free speech doesn't mean anything unless the courts hold up said free speech, right? Canada has kind of free speech on paper, but the courts don't hold it up, right? So again, it doesn't matter what the piece of paper says. If same thing goes for the states too, that they have the Second Amendment, but yet look at a lot of the states have very strict gun control, right? So again, that doesn't mean anything if the courts don't hold it up, or the government just legislates anyway and no one questions it, or at least not enough people question it. So again, that's an argument people bring up that doesn't make any sense, right? It makes no sense, easily debunkable. Um, But again, why do people not want free speech? Well, people don't want free speech because free speech is kind of uniquely a people that believe in the concept of freedom kind of thing. If you're a supporter of socialism, for example, you don't want free speech. You don't want free speech for many reasons, because the first and most obvious one being, if you support socialism, you can't have any competition, right? You can't have any competition. For the simple reason that if people were well aware of the competition, they would recognize the competition is destroying you and they would want to change, right? It's very simple, right? Totalitarian governments don't want to be questioned for obvious reasons, right? Like, and this is something that I don't even know why we have to bring up. Like, is it not obvious why um, World War II German leader or Mao or Xi Jinping, like, is it not obvious why these people don't want the citizenry to be able to question them? Like, why do we even need to give reasons for it? Like, I really don't get it. Now, I gave reasons, but why do we need to? It makes no sense, right? It makes absolutely and utterly no sense. So, um, yeah, I mean, the Trudeau government is they're being very honest with people too. It's the craziest thing. They're literally telling people they're using the quote unquote pandemic as an opportunity to get things done that they otherwise wouldn't have been able to get done. Like, we're running I mean, I think the government projection is what, like 150 billion. I mean, it's going to go way over too. Anyone with half a brain knows it's going to go way over. But um, if someone would have told you 2 years ago, yeah, government's going to be running a $150 billion deficit this year, and not only that, the year before it's going to be a half a trillion, you'd have called me crazy. You'd have called me crazy. But it happened. Not only is it happening now, most people are supportive of it. Like, do people not realize the well, actually the Bank of Canada, but $1 billion a day needs to be created just to prop up the current system, like the way we're going. And in the States, it's like more than 10x that. It's like probably 20 billion a day. In fact, I think it's something like, I think the official Fed number is like 200 billion per month. I don't know. Don't quote me on the exact number, but it's in the hundreds of billions. Like, that is insane amounts of money. But no one's questioning it. People know that that is debt. People know that the more debt you rack up, the less likely you're going to be able to pay it off. And at what point, one point or another, you got to pay the piper. And the more debt you got, the worse the landing's going to be. So again, coming back to the whole free speech thing, the writing's on the wall when it comes to this stuff, to be quite honest. Like, um, I don't know if there's anything the provinces can do. I'm not exactly sure on how that works, but I mean, if I'm Jason Kenney, this would be a great opportunity for him. I mean, I don't think it would work. It'd be too little, too late. But um, a chance for him to maybe win back some of his base. Like I say, I think it would be too little too late, but, you know, try and do, like, again, the provinces may be completely, dead in the water. They may not be able to do anything, but, like, if Jason Kenney says, yeah, we're gonna adopt a de facto First Amendment, that would at least, get me. I mean, I still don't think I'd vote for him. I highly doubt it, but at least that would, at least, make him not the worst thing in the world, right? But again, they're not doing that, right? Took Aaron O'Toole like over a week to finally say something about this. And this is the other reason too why I'm so pessimistic about Canada going forward, is that there's no scenario where I see us coming out of this unscathed, right? There may have been one point in time to where you could argue ex-conservative leader would have, you know, pulled a Ron DeSantis and actually did the right thing, but there's no one. There's no one. I mean, and this is the other thing too when it comes to the conservatives. Aaron O'Toole may be fully supportive of free speech, but is he going to do anything to push back against any of the garbage that's going on? Like, absolutely not. And this is why the conservatives at a federal and a provincial level, lose so much. Because in a actual real world, if they actually had a spine, they should be winning easily every time. But they don't. And why is that? It's because they don't do anything. Like, what ends up happening, and this is the same for the Republicans in the States, maybe not quite to the same degree, is that the left-wing party gets in and they get stuff done. I mean, not as much as they want to get done, I would assume, but they get stuff done. Conservatives get in, they either do nothing, or maybe they repeal what the lefties did, but they don't take it a step further ever, right? Like, prime example, Aaron O'Toole, and this is just one of the other reasons why I wouldn't even consider voting for the guy, is that, yeah, he says he's going to repeal the gun ban, but is he going to do anything to go after any of the other stupid laws? Like 99% of the gun laws on the books make no sense. Is he like, yeah, like, I mean, a prime example, right? That, the ATTs, like the dumbest thing in the history of the world. For anyone not aware, it's basically a piece of paper that says that you can take your gun from your house to the range. And if you don't have it, that's a pretty serious offense if you get caught without it. Even if you're following every other law perfectly, that's still a serious offense. Why are we not getting rid of that? Right? So again, it's just an example I'm using. Again, like, um, I could go on and on and on forever about those kind of examples, but this is why the left has so much power right now, is that, and this is the thing too, like, when, like, another prime example, Trump cut taxes, right? And Trump can't cut taxes for the middle class. People think, oh, we only cut taxes for the rich. No, that's BS, right? That's just stupid leftist talking points. Trump cut taxes for everyone, right? Um, Biden is raising taxes for pretty much everyone, right? Biden said, "Oh, it's only going to be if you make over 400,000." Turns out that's complete bunk, complete bunk. And even if he isn't doing it, I mean, look at the price of gas and and inflation over the last little while. It's absolutely and utterly insane, right? So again, the example I make: if Biden was doing it the Republican way, he would have done nothing, right? He'd have done nothing, or he'd have just left it that way. He would have just kept the tax cut, but they didn't, right? They increased taxes, and Trump is a little bit of an exception in that Trump actually did get some good stuff done compared to the average right winger. Not that he was perfect by any stretch of the imagination, but he was better than the vast majority of right wingers. Um, but this is the big problem when it comes to the right. And again, this is fundamentally the reason why Aaron O'Toole is a complete disaster. Jason Kenney, I mean, the only good thing Jason Kenney's doing that I can see is he's pushing back against the needlessly shutting down our oil and gas sector. And I don't even know if he's doing enough when it comes to that. Right? So again, when it comes to conservatives and Republicans, you have to push back. And when you get a chance to get stuff done, you got to get stuff done. Like the Republicans had the House, the Senate, and the presidency for 2 years. What major thing? I mean, they got some stuff done, but did they get anything? Did they get any landmark things done? Did they get a handle on big tech censoring people? No. Did they get anything big done on guns? No. Did they get anything big done on free speech? No. Right? So this is the big problem, and this is why we're in the mess we are in right now as a society, is that there's no legitimate opposition to this stuff. There's opposition. People like Aaron O'Toole, they'll pretend they're opposition. Jason Kenney, they'll pretend, but at the end of the day, they're not opposition, right? And this is why Trump was so hated. Not because he was all that bad. Like I say, Trump better than probably 95, maybe even 99% of politicians. And I don't think he was that good, but that's a testament to just how bad the average politician is, not necessarily Trump. Um, and this is why Trump was so hated, because he actually he got stuff done, and I think there was other stuff that he probably would have got done if he wasn't blocked. And again, this is the other reason too, is I think part of the reason the Republicans didn't get a lot done when they had everything for 2 years is that there's so many rhinos out there. There's the Mitt Romneys of the world, right? And that's the big problem. And this is the other thing too when it comes to the left, is that even though people like Biden disagree with people like AOC on a ton of things, at the end of the day, they almost always, buckle down, find some common ground, and get stuff done. But do Republicans do that? Do conservatives do that? Pretty much never. Pretty much never. And this is why we're in the mess we are in, that we are on the verge of free speech no longer being a thing in Canada. And this is the other thing, too. The government just doesn't want to ban the evil hate speech, right? Even if you think hate speech is terrible and it should be banned, which, again, if you do believe that, you don't believe in the concept of free speech. But even if you do believe that, the government wants to be able to regulate the internet, meaning the government literally wants to be able to ban a YouTube video from being in Canada for any reason. Like, that is some draconian stuff right there. Like, if that's not enough to get you to reevaluate your worldview, I don't think anything will, right? So, and this is the other thing too. People say, "Oh, it's going to be the misinformation," right? Well, who decides what that is? And this is the other reason why the left is completely and utterly insane. Who's to say Donald Trump 2.0 doesn't get elected in Canada and uses that against you? Right? It's just a testament to just how stupid and naive the left is that they genuinely believe that they're going to get all this draconian stuff put in and it's never going to backfire on them. Now, to be honest, I think it's pretty unlikely it backfires on them, but wouldn't it be ironic if it did? Right? So, anyway, that's what I wanted to bring up today. If you liked the video, make sure you hit that like and subscribe if you haven't already. Check out those links below. Follow me on those other platforms. If you want to donate, you could do that as well. Whatever support I could get would be very much appreciated. So like I say, check out those links and stay tuned for more.